I did not have to be a leader of a large team when we got started. And then I had to learn and evolve how to be a leader for 1,000 people organization. And it goes back to the growth mindset, right? So being willing to put yourself in a situation that's uncomfortable for you. Being good and kind and leading with the heart in little things is just as important and supports leading with the heart with the big things. Taking care of our people. I think that's one most important aspect. Making sure that regardless of the ups and downs in the economy, of ups and downs in the company, leading with the human heart and in how we take care of our people. And sometimes we have to deliver bad news. HR cannot be settled with supporting and driving culture. Culture is driven top down from the CEO. Ultimately, it comes from the very top. Acquisitions are difficult because they come with their own pre-existing culture, their own pre-existing processes. You need to be thoughtful about the change management and transition and the experience of the people that are coming up on board. Philosophizing about this topic or that topic without really thinking, well, how do you actually apply it to my day-to-day operations? What does it mean? How do I drive the value for my clients, for my team, for the business using this philosophy? So that's where the leadership needs to come in and really think through about tangible applications. Did I become a different person because of this journey? Or I was able to execute this journey because I was changing myself. You have to take care of yourself first so you can take care of others. For a couple of decades, my main focus in my life was twofold: building a company and building a family. And one always supported the other. I was 25 years old. I just got engaged to my wife, and it was like we had to discuss, I told my wife, it's now or never.
This is the Business Philosopher Within You podcast. I'm your host, Bhavesh Naik. A key thread we explore on this podcast is how business leaders apply their unique philosophies to build high-performing organizations that stand the test of time. Today, we'll speak with a founder who has led a global digital consultancy from zero to over 1,000 people through growth, acquisitions, and transition. Ilya Vinogradsky, founder, CTO, and board member at Astound Digital, has been at the forefront of digital commerce for over 2 decades. Starting in 2000, he built a company that evolved into an international agency with over 600 certified engineers, delivered over 3,000 solutions, and added $10 billion, that's billion with a B, in customer value. His business philosophy is rooted in openness, thoughtfulness, and teamwork, with a culture of collaboration that has enabled global success and impactful digital transformation. I am pleased to have you on this podcast, Ilya.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me on.
And a special shout out to you, our listener. Hey, listen, we'll learn from each other and grow with each other. This podcast won't be possible without your interest and engagement. Please remember to like, subscribe, follow, share, and comment. But most important, ask and answer questions. Thank you for tuning in. So, Ilya, Astound Digital. Naming the companies is so important. The brand is obviously very important. But what I love about some of there are 2 ways to name companies, right? One is what we bring to you as a client. And the other the way to name it is, what we do. It's a description of the business itself. And then there are other strange ones, which are like basically Apple, that are basically off the left field, right? But in your case, you have Astound, and I love that because I have a feeling that the Astound is about what you deliver to the customer, but you also say digital. So having said all of that, how did you come about building a brand called Astound Digital? And please feel free to take us to basically the genesis of how you started the business and how you got to Astound Digital.
Astound Digital actually the digital part is relatively recent. We rebranded the company with the digital part a little over a year ago. Before that, for many years, it was Astound Commerce. And yet Astound Commerce was not the first name of the company either. I'll briefly talk about how the company got started and how the name evolved as the company was evolving as well.
Sure.
The company was started by three friends in San Francisco, and it came out of some ideas that my friends had during their undergraduate school business class, where they needed to brainstorm a business plan for a startup. And the idea was to build a online bookstore, and it was mid-90s. The internet was just beginning, and one of the pain points for students was expensive books. So we wanted to build an e-commerce store to sell textbooks and in general books online. And my two business partners were the business guys, and they needed the technical guy, and I'm the technical guy. I got my education in computer science, and I wanted to learn more about the internet. So I decided to take on this project. In the evenings, I started building the technology. My friends were establishing relationships with dropship book distributors, and it took about a year, and I had a site that was running on a DSL connection out of my living room in my home, in my apartment. And we had a site where you could come, place an order, search for a book. Like, we had the whole book imprint database, and it would automatically be routed to a drop shipper, and they would ship on our behalf directly to you. And that was by then it was end of 1990s. And the internet was already pretty big by then. Amazon was a high flyer, and but we didn't have any money for marketing, so nobody knew about our website. So even though the technology was working, there were no sales. So we, at the end of 1999, we decided that we needed either to drop this side project or do it for real, and focus all of our energy on the company and building a company. So we decided to go for it. We took the risk, and we decided to apply the know-how that we built over the previous year or 2 years, and to build a platform for enabling independent booksellers to quickly go online and sell books online and compete against Amazon. And so in the year 2000, we officially registered the company, and the first company name was EcoFabric. It meant like e-commerce fabric for e-commerce, or fabric from which e-commerce is made. And we built the platform. We started getting some booksellers, but booksellers didn't really know much about the internet, didn't know why they needed it or how to work with it. So it was not going well. But we got lucky, and in the year 2000, the dot-com bubble burst, and a lot of the platforms that were building their own companies that were building their own platforms and were implementing their customers on top of those platforms started going out of business. And we started picking up those customers, and essentially that's how we transitioned into the general services related to e-commerce. So we would implement and host and support e-commerce sites. And as the company started growing, people were confused about the name of the company, EcoFabric. Is it like eco-friendly fabric? So we actually, being in San Francisco, we got some calls about trying to sell us hemp for our fabrics, ecological fabric. So a few years later, we decided to change the name to SysIQ, like Systems IQ. So that we know about building these systems. And we ran that with that name for a few more years. And then we hit the Great Recession. And
Yeah.
it was a tough time for us. A lot of our clients that were at the time mail order catalogers went out of business, and the company was struggling. But
Yeah.
we got lucky, and that e-commerce was one of the first niches that came out of the Great Recession, and e-commerce started growing super rapidly, starting at the end of like 2009 and so. And we started growing extremely rapidly again.
Yeah.
And as part of that growth, we worked with multiple e-commerce platforms, implementing them for larger and larger clients. And that's when we decided to establish a new brand called Astound Commerce to show that we astound our clients by the work that we do. And then we ran with that brand for another 15 years or so, and then to again expand further the perception of the company, we decided to change commerce to digital, to show that we do more than just e-commerce.
Right.
So that's the evolution of the name, and how the name was impacted by how we evolved as a company and how we wanted to be perceived in the marketplace.
Sure, absolutely. What I find absolutely fascinating about that story is that you started with a name that was sort of, you were trying to explain what you did, right? Eco-fabric. And then the second name was also something that you did. And then you came up with an idea of basically naming a company that is something that's about the customer. What does the customer get from
feelings
doing
we want to project?
Exactly, the feeling that you want to project, right? Astound them, right? And then Astound Digital, I'm assuming that that's just more of like a broader, now that you are a more established company, you're global company now, you've done acquisitions and grown, you've got 1,000 employees around the world and those kinds of things. So now, you are just kind of giving it a broader umbrella. Is that correct?
Correct. And a lot of our work is still e-commerce, but we do go beyond just e-commerce. We do CRM, we do order management systems, and so on.
Sure. And on that point, so your offering to the marketplace seems like, so originally it was e-commerce stores. Is that correct?
Yes. We would design, build, implement, and support e-commerce sites and stores around the world for large. Eventually, it became very large international businesses like Adidas and Crocs and L'Oreal were our clients, and we supported them all around the world.
Right. And today you've expanded that a little bit, and you added basically more support services around still, that core offering, but you do other things such as, customer relationship management and those kinds of things.
That's right. We are a big Salesforce partner, so we work with a number of other Salesforce clouds, as well as Salesforce e-commerce platform, as well as other e-commerce platforms for other providers.
Sure. I think you mentioned this in passing a little bit, Ilya. One thing that I kind of like to get into a little bit in our conversations is who is the customer, and the idea of this customer avatar or customer profile, the ideal customer, right? So who is your customer today?
So primarily it's enterprises that have they have some pain points. So what are the pain points? The pain points could be that the business processes need to be optimized, or their current technology stack is lacking and is not allowing for the growth that they want to project or want to implement. So that's the overall business pain point. The second pain point is lack of expertise. So over many, many years, we've developed very strong expertise in our area. And we are recognized as the leaders in implementing e-commerce operations, designing them, providing digital services around growth of digital businesses, as well as we over the years we've expanded in back-end systems that support the front-end systems for
Sure.
which are very important to accelerate the internal processes and external growth.
Got it. And I'm assuming that because you are selling to the enterprise and you probably have a complex sales cycle where multiple parties get involved and things like that, and you are bringing people to help with their systems, your own people, right? So you develop your own solutions, but you probably are also working with them. So your people are working with their people.
Absolutely.
Types of scenarios.
Absolutely.
Right? And that normally means, and I'm projecting a little bit, and correct me if I'm wrong, that normally means that you have probably a sales force that is reaching out to people and making sales calls, for example.
Absolutely.
Right? So if you, for example, if you hired me as a salesperson, who would I approach? Who am I approaching within the enterprise customer or prospect?
We typically work with two types of buyers, either
Sure.
a technology buyer or a business buyer. So
Got
it can be, as a technology buyer, it can be director of IT or chief technology officer or something like that. From the business buyers, it can be a VP of e-commerce or VP of marketing. So
Sure.
Typically, depending on the size of the company, sophistication and complexity, it can be one or both that collaborate together and make the decision about, the technology to implement, as well as who will help them implement that technology.
Got it. Right. And I'm assuming that your sales cycle is probably a bit long. And one of the things that we kind of, like to get into a little bit, and especially with you, is how long is your sales cycle? If you're okay discussing that,
Sure.
From the time that someone raises the hand and say, I'm interested, to the time that you close the deal, maybe you do a pilot project and then you do a bigger project, I'm assuming. So what's that like? Is it a long sale complex, or is it short and swift?
No, it is a complex sale.
Uh-huh.
I would say that on average, the sales cycle is around 6 months.
Okay.
It can be shorter if the client is in a hurry and wants to get started with a small project, and we can engage and then see where it takes us. Or it can be longer if it's a major digital transformation initiative that's, that they need to choose a platform as well as a partner. It can be a long process. Also, it depends on how they want to get started. Do we get started with a small discovery to really understand what they want, or do we immediately go for the full project from the get-go? There are pros and cons to each approach, and it really depends on what the customer is looking for from the point of view of long-term value, long-term risks, versus getting started quickly and figuring it out along the way. Right? The risk tolerance on the customer side is very important to understand, and for us and for themselves as well.
Absolutely. So, Ilya, one of the questions I like to ask is, the question of how. You started with 0 or 3 partners, I think. Was it 3 partners?
Yes, 3.
3 partners, right? You started 3 partners, and today you are more than 1,000 people around the world. So how did you get here? And I know that that's a complex question. And so what I want to ask is, what are some of the things that you thought made you successful in achieving this level of success? Having 1,000 people company that who work around the world, that is no small feat. And I know you alluded to some setbacks and things like that you had. But if there was something that you point out that you thought was a success, the secret of your success in terms of how you got here, could you point out something, 1 or 2 things?
Yeah, there's so many that were
it's hard.
important to contribute to our successful growth. I would say, our success always depended on three things: the technology partners that we worked with,
Yeah.
the people inside the company,
Right.
and the processes that we built inside the company.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the technology partners, I alluded that we worked with Salesforce, we worked with Shopify and other e-commerce platforms, Magento that was acquired by Adobe. So these are the partners were instrumental to our growth and success.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now the people. We are a services business. So the only way for us to grow was to grow with our people.
Yeah.
And for that, we developed strategies and a passion for taking care of our people and growing our personnel, investing into our people and really taking care of them. And we can dig into that further. And the third is also very important: processes. In the beginning, I was responsible for everything related to implementing, supporting, and holding our clients. And there was a period of multiple years that I focused on shedding responsibility and making sure that others can do the work that I do. At least as well, or hopefully better than I did.
Yeah, sure,
right?
sure.
And for that, we had to invest into training, and processes, documentation, and really it was an intense, dedicated, and focused effort in parallel with everything else to build out and document our processes.
Yeah, processes are so important, and going with people. So that's an interesting thing, and we always like to talk about this on this podcast because this podcast is about people. In that's the big part of it. But we also talk about other things like processes and partners. Those are huge components, especially in your business. So people and processes, and I think you alluded to something about basically setting. I think you said, I think you spoke of something like delegation, where you set a culture where you were sharing more and more of your responsibilities so that others can be empowered to fit in and take up the roles that you fill personally. And then I'm assuming that's like a ripple effect.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
So the responsibility gets pushed down, and then there is an empowered workforce that works for you, report to you directly or indirectly, right?
Absolutely.
So there is a cultural aspect of that. Would you agree that it's like it's there?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Culture is extremely important in aligning the people as to how we worked with each other and with our clients. Culture is independent of the actual work that we do. Meaning that it supports. You don't have to know how to do e-commerce development to be part of the culture, right? You can bring that culture and apply it to any other technical aspect of the business. So culture is an umbrella that overarches everything that is going on in the company. And just like in an umbrella, it has to be a top-down effort. We as leaders are responsible for building the culture. Not
100%.
only building it, but sustaining on day-to-day basis, minute by minute, showing examples of how we don't only talk about the culture, but how we use the culture to make the day-to-day interactions that are in line with what we want our culture to be.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that, because especially the part where you said that it's the leader's responsibility to set the culture, and not just set it and forget it and hope that it'll stick and work and it'll take on, but you have to actually kind of ride it and drive it.
Absolutely.
Right? You almost like an execution type of thing where, you're actually making sure that the culture is taking place. So what would be the defining characteristic of your culture? If you could point out one or two things that you think you're so proud of about the culture of your company.
So about 9 years after we started the company, the three founders actually sat down and wrote down the core values that we want the company to have. And that was right as the company was starting to grow very rapidly.
Sure.
And it's not that we came up with these core values out of the blue. We analyzed how did we run the company for the previous 9 years and extracted what was important to us and what we wanted to preserve as we grew the team.
Absolutely.
And the core values that we came up with are integrity, respect, passion, commitment, continuous improvement, shared success, and teamwork. So what do these core values actually mean? It's really, they mean how we work with each other and how we work with our clients.
Sure.
Right? And then we have to use these core values to make day-to-day decisions and apply these core values. And so in addition to the core values themselves, we actually used certain principles for how we applied these values. And the principles were we always took care of our people first. Then we took care of our clients, and then we took care of the business. So what does this actually mean? It means that when there were tough projects or tough negotiations with the clients or within the company, we made decisions on how to apply these values. First and foremost, how do we make sure that our people continue developing, continue improving, like in terms of continuing improvements? How do we make sure that we take care of the people so that they can take care of our clients?
Absolutely.
So that's where shared success comes in.
Sure.
And then, so taking the priority of taking care of our people feeds into taking care of our clients, and then feeds into taking care of the company, the business. So sometimes we would sacrifice the business to take care of the client. Sometimes we would sacrifice the client to take care of our people. So that's the waterfall effect. But we knew that when we take care of the people, it will go back up, and they will take care of the clients, and the business will grow and continue being successful.
Yeah, I love it. I love that priority that you said. You take care of the people first, who take care of the clients, and then they will take care of the business, as in the top line, the bottom line, and the middle line, and all the rest of it, right?
Absolutely.
The results, right? The financial performance of the company, right?
Absolutely.
So people, processes, and partners. How does this, if you can give me an example of how does this come together? So, if, you have a cultural blueprint, right? Is there a way that this cultural blueprint interacts with the people and the process, and maybe on the partners? Could you give us an example of how that interaction works? Maybe a specific scenario where something happened, for example, a problem that you had to fix, something like that, and then this chain reaction got implemented.
Yeah. So, as part of the core value of continuous improvement, in conjunction with taking care of our people, the way I always thought about is, I want to enable our people to be able to make mistakes and take risks in a safe environment without fear of being punished. And we've made plenty of mistakes. But the approach that I took is I don't punish people for making mistakes. We just need to do the postmortem, analyze what happened, and update our processes to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Sure.
And as the company started growing, we started documenting our SDLC. We call it, some call it software development lifecycle. We call it solution development lifecycle.
Sure.
And we started, we had a team that was responsible for implementing lessons learned into our documentation. And so that the next project, the people would know, here's, when we get to this stage of the project, here's what we need to pay attention to. Here's what we do. Here are the standard processes. Here are the standard templates and assets that we use, and so on.
Sure.
So this is how we took the core values of continuous improvement and applied it on top of taking care of our people and learning. And both of these together fed into us providing better quality work for our clients.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what I love about what you're sharing here, Ilya, is the passion with which you speak about this. And also, and that passion is not coming from some kind of an idealism. We talk about people, and, on this podcast, talk about humans, right? Human values and things like that. This is rubber meets the road. This is nuts and bolt, that these philosophical aspects kind of translate into actual action, right? So this is not just a philosophy. It's an actionable business philosophy, right? Or executable business philosophy from which you execute, right? It guides your daily decisions, and not just you personally, your team, but, people who work for you.
Absolutely. Otherwise, there's no point, right? Philosophizing about this topic or that topic without really thinking, well, how do you actually apply it to my day-to-day operations? What does it mean? How do I drive the value for my clients, for my team, for the business using this philosophy? So that's where the leadership needs to come in and really think through about tangible applications.
Yeah. A quick question on the passing, and because you bring this up, something that I hear that I personally, I kind of react to it in a very not positive way. When people talk about HR and bringing HR to SAT culture, and you saying that it's a leader's responsibility. Now, I'm not saying HR is, and there are other enabling folks who help us. They feel they have a useful function within the organization. But I kind of, I look at that, and sometimes, it's the HR. So the misconception or misperception from my perspective is that HR's job is to instill culture. What's your take on that?
I completely agree with you. HR has a very important role in the overall infrastructure of the company. But HR cannot be settled with supporting and driving culture. Culture is driven top down from the CEO, and then everyone else needs to be involved. It's HR alone cannot do it. HR needs to be part of the team.
Right.
Does it, that drives the culture, that supports the culture. But ultimately, it comes from the very top. And if the top of the organization does not behave as an example, like as a lead by example, right? Is a common term. If they don't lead by example, there is nothing that HR can do to fix that issue.
Absolutely, 100%. On that point, something that I want to talk with you about a little bit, which I don't get a chance to get into too much because, you built this company with 1,000 employees. I'm assuming that, I can almost tell that, not all of them report to you directly, right? So there is, you had to set up an organizational structure, so to speak, right? Could you give us some insight on how you set that up? Do you have, I think you mentioned that you have a top-down management structure. I think that's what worked. It's worked for centuries. That's tried and true. And within that, we can do a lot of these things where, we're good to our people and those kinds of things, right? What's your reporting structure? If you can, give us some insights on that.
as the company was growing, the org structure evolved. And in the very beginning, as I was responsible for technology and we were scaling and hiring more and more engineers, at one time, I had like 200 people reporting directly to me, which is not sustainable, not realistic, right? So
I don't know how you did it. Yeah.
A focused effort of building a middle layer management team.
Sure.
And essentially, what we arrived at after a few years is a combination of direct management with the matrixed structure.
Okay.
So the projects were always matrixed, meaning that there was a project manager or an account manager. In combination, they were responsible for leading the team and executing on the client project. And then the client project team would consist of various skill sets that are needed for that specific project. And they would work together based on the processes that we've talked about previously.
Yeah.
So we had front-end developers, back-end developers, QA engineers, business analysts. They would all come together and execute on the specific project for a client under the leadership of the project manager and the engagement manager or account manager. So that's the matrixed aspect of it.
Sure.
And then direct management, each of the departments based on their skill set were managed separately and had a management structure. So back-end developers had their own management structure, front-end developers had their own management structure, and so on and so forth. And what that allowed us to do was to drive excellence within each of the skill sets. Each of the departments were responsible for selection and hiring the best people possible, then training them up into the technologies that we use so that they were ready to become members of the matrix team that executed on the actual project.
Got it. Normally, a organization from the top down is divided into basically functional areas, right? And you always have sales and marketing, and then there are some common ones: sales and marketing, operations, customer service, finance, legal, those kinds of things. And of course, then you have the leadership. So how many functions have you identified at the top? If you feel okay talking about that.
Sure.
And
so
if you have,
at the top, finance, HR, technology or delivery function, then operations, and separately sales.
Sure. Got it. Right. Yeah. And you probably have a head of each department.
That's right.
And then they probably report to you directly.
I was never CEO of the company.
Right.
I was always responsible for the delivery.
Okay. Got it. Okay. So that's fascinating. So, and what I've found is that every business has a little bit of a different ways of saying certain, similar things. For example, operations for you means different things than operations to, for example, a construction company.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Right.
And by operations, I mean internal operations such as facilities, IT, and so on.
So, Ilya, moving forward, here you are. You're sitting here, and I want to get into one thing that we haven't touched on. If you correct me if I'm wrong, I think you acquired some companies.
That's right.
And could you talk about that a little bit? What was your acquisition? Just we don't have to get too detailed if you don't want to, but the types of companies that you acquired, and I'm more interested in how you looked at the culture and how you incorporated that culture into your own company culture.
Yep. So we acquired a few companies that were smaller than us.
Yeah.
And the primary goal of each acquisition was to add additional expertise.
Sure.
That we lacked inside the company. So, for example, we grew up as a technology company, and we wanted to expand our to be stronger in design services, for example. So we started building those skills on our own, but we wanted to accelerate that, and we acquired a company that specialized in the design services.
Sure.
Then, for example, we worked with one e-commerce platform, and we wanted to start working with another e-commerce platform. So we acquired a small company that had a specialty in another e-commerce platform. So that accelerated our entrance into that market. So these are the types of acquisitions that we did. From the point of view of culture, it's very challenging.
I can imagine.
Acquisitions are difficult because they come with their own pre-existing culture, their own pre-existing processes. And as I said, we invested a lot into our processes, and sometimes, we were more stringent than the companies that we acquired. So bringing them along and being part of a large organization that is more formal than they were used to. So all of that was a challenge. And I can't say that we were great at all of these acquisitions, but what I can talk about, the basic principles, is you need to be thoughtful about the change management and transition and the experience of the people that are coming on board.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a joint responsibility. It cannot be just our responsibility. It has to be a joint responsibility of the leadership of the other company with the leadership of Astound. And we've learned that as we've done multiple of these acquisitions, we would form essentially a team that was responsible for transition and integration.
Got it.
And we'll have a plan with the project managers. Like, we took it really seriously and invested time and effort to make sure that the transition period is as smooth as possible from the point of view of the experience of the personnel that's coming on board, as well as trying to explain to them the vision, why we did this, how we are going to work together, and so on. So that's the high-level approach that we took, especially taking into account the importance of change management.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's always a tightrope to walk. When I speak with founders, there's never an easy answer, and there is no such thing as a perfect way to integrate a different culture into your own company culture, right? It gets messy sometimes, and you work through it. What is your vision for Astound Digital moving forward? The next 5 years, 10 years, however far you can look forward and think forward.
So the company has been around for 25 years, and we went through a very significant growth period for about 12 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of that, about 5 years ago, we decided that we needed a partner to help us scale and grow the company further. Because before that, the company was essentially bootstrapped, and everything was poured back into the company. Mm-hmm. So in 2021, we actually partnered with a private equity company that invested into the company. And now together we are working on growing the company further.
Great.
As you know, the economic climate has been challenging over the last few years for a number of reasons that we won't get into. And there was an impact on Astound as well. So Astound is stable right now, and we are poised to grow again. And we want to grow in a responsible fashion in the broader set of services that we provide. That's hence the rebranding into Astound Digital. And
Yeah.
we want to continue being a premier mid-market in the sense that not a very super large company like Accenture, but not very
Right.
small company, but a company that is of significant size that can
Sure.
work with large international companies around the world and provide them value by
Yeah.
being strong enough to support large enterprises and being agile enough to be quick about it and more intentional rather than huge consulting organizations. So essentially, that's the
Sure.
vision for us for the next few years, to continue expanding our services, to continue expanding our client base in various verticals.
Yeah.
Historically, we've been very strong in retail vertical, and we're expanding into other
Got it.
verticals right now. So on the high level, that's the vision for us now.
And on that note, one thing I want to ask you, Ilya, is, and this is always brings some surprising answers. If you were to, I'm not implying that you might do this, but if you were to step away from the company, let's say for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, or sell it, whatever, right? Ilya is moving back from the company, and you want to tell the whoever is taking over, who is staying behind, you're saying, whatever you do, don't change this one thing. What would that be? One value, one principle, something.
Taking care of our people. I think that's one most important aspect. Making sure that regardless of the ups and downs in the economy, of ups and downs in the company, leading with the human heart and in how we take care of our people. And sometimes we have to deliver bad news, but there are different ways to do it. And doing it with humanity and explaining the reality of the situation, being honest. I think that's most important aspect.
Absolutely. And, leading with heart and keeping the heart in the business. I love what I'm hearing. And, so, you walking this tightrope between, the people and the processes, because people by definition are not about processes. They have aspirations, they have goals, and, and processes are confining, right?
That's right.
They kind of, straitjacket us in a way if you're not careful. So it's a very difficult tightrope to walk, right? And I want to just kind of get your some thoughts on how is AI changing this? Just your top level perspective on what AI is, bringing to the marketplace, the good and the bad and the ugly of all of it.
Yeah. So I'm personally very bullish on AI and the importance of AI in general for our society, but specifically for the services businesses. Like Astound. For the last year and a half, I've been actually spearheading an initiative at Astound related to adoption of AI tools for our teams that work for our clients, as well as general adoption of AI tools for our internal operations.
Sure.
I can tell you it's not easy. It's the tools are very interesting and thought-provoking, and we found significant benefits. The way we have approached it, it was a combination of a top-down and bottoms-up approach. As a top-down, as a leader in the organization, I continuously drill down the message that we have to use AI tools because this is the expectation in the industry. It's an expectation for us to be more efficient. We have to do this. Then from the bottom-up approach, I actually instruct various teams and find leaders who are don't have to be in the leadership role in the team, but whoever is interested in and is passionate about learning more, exploring more. Like, you're a business analyst, please
Sure.
explore how AI tools can help you. What are the use cases that we can develop best practices around in use of AI tools? And we create
Sure.
these small teams, business analysts, QA developers who explore the tools, establish this best practices, and then we gradually roll them out
Yeah.
to other teams. And they look at what the best practices, internal best practices are, and they adapt them to the realities of their projects.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I do see direct benefits, and I get anecdotal feedback from
Sure.
the people about how they enjoy using the tools, how they
Yeah.
don't want to go back to how it
Yeah.
was before they had these tools.
Right. Yeah.
So this is the positive. What
Yeah.
concerns me about AI in general is AI is automating tasks that were used to be done by junior people.
Mhm.
And my concern in general for the society is we need to be able to grow our junior people, our young people,
Yeah.
into becoming more senior, more experienced. And
Yeah.
if we don't purposefully do that, we may
Yeah.
find a situation where all of the senior people who are super efficient with using AI tools will sooner or later will retire, and we will not have enough more junior people coming up. So that's a risk that I want us as a society to be mindful of.
Yes.
And thoughtfully approach growing the next generation in a different way, not how we grew up.
Right. Exactly.
But purposefully growing the next generation with the new reality of these new tools.
Yeah. So, Ilya, switching gears a little bit. You started the company back in the 90s, right? And here you are today. So, the journey of entrepreneurship, the journey of business building is not often, moonlight and roses, right? We run into some issues, some challenges, some obstacles, things like that. If you can look back and think about one thing that you thought was the most difficult for you to overcome in your journey as a leader or a business builder, what would that be?
It's really hard to say. One of the reasons why I've always loved Astound, and the reason why I did this for many, many years is because it changed every day. The company that we were today was like one day was very different from a year before and very different from a year since. So there were always challenges that we had to overcome, but there were good challenges, and we had to, even with the downturns, we had to struggle through them, and leading with the heart, as I talked about, and making sure that you stay positive, and the power of positivity is a whole different conversation.
Sure.
But if I had to focus on one thing that I always struggled with, and I really did not enjoy as the company grew, is corporate politics. Unfortunately, they are unavoidable. Unfortunately, because as human beings, we are political creatures. And I would say that even in my company, even when I showed example that I don't care about politics and I focus on results, there's still politics that brew around. And that's one item that I've always struggled, never had a great solution to it. I've always tried to not be above politics, but just not engage.
Yes. It seems like you've done well without it. So here you are. The journey of entrepreneurship also changes us sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't. If 2 out of 10 people tell me, well, it hasn't changed me at all. But 8 out of 10 people tell me, hey, I'm different today. So, Ilya, before and today, before and after, how are you different because of this journey of business building and entrepreneurship? If there is couple of things that you can
I'm
point out.
absolutely a different person. Absolutely.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And the question is, where's the chicken? Where's the egg? I don't know
Yeah.
why did I become a different person because of this journey? Or I was able to execute this journey because I was
Yeah.
changing myself. So what's
Right.
the cause? What's the effect? It's hard for me to say, but I've learned
question.
so much. And
Yeah.
actually, this is one of the reasons why I decided to take the risk and start a company. So
Yeah.
I was 25 years old. I just got engaged to my wife, and it was like we had to discuss. Like I told my wife, it's now or never. Either I take the risk now, or it may never be appropriate time to do it in the future.
Right.
We plan to have a family, raise children, and so on. And I wanted to take this risk because I wanted to gain a different kind of experience that I would not have had an opportunity if I stayed in the corporate world. I'm sure that I would have had a great career in some large corporation, but it would have been different. And I would have maybe developed different kinds of skills rather than I had to develop as I was growing the company. And I learned a lot throughout this journey by reading books, being thoughtful about the challenges that we had day to day, and seeking advice from reading from other people, and then adapting my behavior towards solutioning and resolving the challenges that we had. I did not have to be a leader of a large team when we got started. And then I had to learn and evolve how to be a leader for 1,000 people organization. And that requires maybe the basics are the same, but the approach has to be different.
Absolutely. Yeah. We had a guest here on the podcast. His name is Tope Folarin, who wrote a book. And he said that when I was writing the book, it got to a point where the book was saying that you need to be a different kind of person to be able to write me. Meaning that you can't write the kind of book that you want to write being the same person that you are. You're going to have to grow with me as the book to be written. So there is something about that, right? You have to show up as a different person because the company is changing. And, we have to show up as a different person. So maybe it's just our creation draws that out of us a little bit.
Absolutely.
Right? And then we have to evolve with it and change with it.
And it goes back to the growth mindset, right? So
Yeah.
Being willing to put yourself in a situation that's uncomfortable for you.
Yeah.
And then learn from that situation.
Right. Absolutely. And on that note, Ilya, what if, all of this change is happening around us, but also within us. We're changing and growing. The world is changing and growing. Nothing is ever standstill. What is it that you do, or where do you go, literally or philosophically, or in some way, shape, or form, right, or metaphorically, to root yourself, to ground yourself, to kind of get into the state where this is who I really am, even as everything else is changing around me. Is there such a thing for you?
Maybe not one thing, but I can tell you that for many years, I said that we got married the year when we started the company, and for a couple of decades, my main focus in my life was twofold. There were two focuses: building a company and building a family.
Yeah,
and one always supported the other.
Right.
Without my family, I don't think I would have been as great of a person as a leader. And
Yeah.
my wife and I, we raised 3 children together as the company was
Yeah.
growing.
Yeah.
So making sure I made time for the family while working
Yeah.
hard on the company was very
Yes.
important.
Yeah.
Then, as a little bit later in my mid-30s, as we all start getting older, and I started feeling lower back pain and this and that, and then I decided that I need to start taking care of myself as
Yeah.
well. So I started
Sure.
exercising, changing how I live, changing how I
Yeah.
eat. So that also is very important in terms of your healthy lifestyle journey and taking care of yourself. And
Yeah.
just like they say on the airplanes, first put the mask on
Mm-hmm.
yourself and then put the mask on your neighbor. You have to take care of yourself first so you can take care of others. So I
100%.
think that combination is what grounds me and
Yeah.
allows me to be thoughtful thoughtful and purposeful about
Yeah.
what I do on the day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. At this stage in your company and its growth and where you are, who are the kinds of people that you like to connect with, and how do they get hold of you?
Um, I've always been a fan of servant leadership.
Uh-huh.
And to me, what servant leadership means is that when people come to me with challenges and problems, I take them seriously, and sometimes as seriously as the people who come to me, and sometimes
Sure.
even more seriously. And I always liked mentorship and taking investing in taking care of.
Sure. Yeah.
So at this stage in my life, I like sharing my experience. This is one of the
Sure.
reasons why I wanted to join this podcast.
Yeah.
My experience, even though it's in a specific niche, specific area over a long period of time, it can be applicable to others, or at least
Yeah.
it can
It is.
provoke thoughts
Yeah.
and questions that is
Sure.
applicable to them. So at this
Yeah.
point in my life, I'm happy to share my experience,
Sure.
troubleshoot thought ideas, and mentor others.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very generous of you to offer yourself for that, for mentorship and those types of things, and including being on the podcast and share your story. That's why we do this. The idea is that even as you share your story, our viewers and our listeners can learn from it. How do I become the best business philosopher that my business has? So as we learn the business philosophy of others who have done it, this is real stuff. The rubber meets the road kind of stuff. As we listen to these stories, we learn and grow with these stories that are being told, right? So thank you for being on the podcast. Is there anything, and I want to ask this question because I sometimes forget, anything that you want to add or share that we didn't cover in this conversation, but you think is important for our listeners and viewers to know?
I think one thing that we should stress is that once somebody told me that leaders who are good at big things, they have to be good at little things as well. And one cannot go without the other. And it's very important to remember that you cannot think about yourself too seriously or think you're too big or too important for this or that. Right. I always encourage to, if you need to do something to help somebody, nothing is above you as a leader, as a founder. So being responsive, offering to help, even, a junior developer or even a janitor or to move something from one room to another.
Sure.
Being good and kind and leading with the heart in little things is just as important and supports leading with the heart with the big things.
I love it.
That's a very important point.
Absolutely love it. Yeah. And on that note, thank you so much, Ilya, for spending this hour with us. And hopefully we'll come back around in 6 months, a year down the road, and we'll do one more of these types of
Thank you very much
conversation.
for having me. It was great.